Hello, my fellow gnomes, and welcome back to episode 6 of our door series. And you'll see there's currently all these red boxes everywhere. And that's because we're going to be adding in some new furniture today. Yes, I know, more furniture. But if we want to have a monster to chase us through the levels, we're going to need something to hide in. And for the purpose of that, we're going to use some wardrobes or some closets, whatever you'd like to call them. That we can go and hide in while the monster runs by us. So let's hit stop and we'll go ahead and create some. Now you'll see I've already gone ahead and created this template part, just the same as the templates we created for our chest of drawers and our chairs and so on. You see I've even gone and created a bed as well. So I've got this part here, right here, and it's 6 by 8 by 3 studs. And if I go into my hallway, you can see we have a little part in here and it's called closet, okay? C-L-O-S-E-T. And if I was to click on it and select the orientation indicator, you see it's pointing outwards. So the front face is pointing into the corridor, and all of them are set up like this in all of the rooms where I've chosen to add them. So I've always got 2 or 3, I've got 4 in this room, and you can see I've got at least a couple in each room to give the player a chance to escape. So once we've got our template created, we're then going to need to actually create a model to actually place in those template locations. So we'll make this 3 by 6 and then maybe 0.5 high. And we're just setting about to create the sort of rough container area. So there we go. That's a rough little shape created. And we can see it perfectly lines up with this template, so we know it's the right size. And what we'll do is we'll create the clone of it again. We'll name this primary. We'll set the transparency to 1. And then we'll group the whole thing together, make sure everything's anchored. And we name it closet. And we'll pop that into our furniture folder. And so now if we go and play, we should then find that it's not really a closet, it's sort of like a bookshelf or something at the moment. We should see that in place. Okay, and it's not in the right location. So the first thing we're going to need to do is check the orientation of that part. Let's see. Is it in the right orientation? Well, if I click the orientation indicator, we can see that it is in the right orientation, but we haven't set the primary part. So we make sure we set the primary part. And now this time when we hit play, we should hopefully see when we're in the game. There we go. We've got all our little furniture pieces lined up, but obviously we can't do anything with them just yet. But we can see that this is going to be the right size. So if my character stood here, he's going to fit in there just perfectly. We can close some doors over him. So what we're going to do next is we're going to add a part in the front of it, which is going to be our barrier. So I'm going to add in a new part, and this is just going to come right over the top. And is going to ensure that people can't just freely enter in or out of the box, only the people that we allow to from our script. So we'll make this fully transparent if we like, or semi-transparent so we can kind of see what's going on. We'll make sure it's anchored, and we'll make sure that the name of it is barrier, and we'll drag that into the model. So that's inside of the closet model as well. And then the next thing we're going to want is we're going to want a proximity prompt, much like we used here. We had an entrance, an interact toggle, so we could open the drawer, and we put a proximity prompt inside of the attachment parts. Well, we're going to do a similar thing here, but we're going to use a part this time. So we're going to add in a new part. We'll make it, say, 2 studs wide, like so. 2 by 2 by 1, and we'll have the orientation visible, and we're going to make sure this orientation is pointing towards the cupboard, and we're going to place it just in front of it. So we're going to place it in the middle and in front of it, just like that will do perfectly. We're going to make this part invisible, and we're going to name it outside, and make sure it's can collide, can query, can touch or disabled, but it is anchored. And then we're going to duplicate this, so Control D, And we're going to move this inside now. So it's inside of this area. And then we're going to rotate it 180 degrees. So it's facing the opposite way. We can enable the orientation indicator to check. And we can see it's now pointing forwards. We've got both of these enabled at the same time. Makes it a bit confusing. But this one that's inside, we're going to name inside. So find the name, rename it to inside. So we've got inside part and outside part. And they should both be looking at each other. So if we look at the orientation indicator of this one, the inside is pointing outside. And if we turn that one off and we look at the outside one, we can see that that is pointing inside. Fantastic. So once we've got both of these parts, we're going to make sure that all of these are inside of the model again. So drag them in. And then we're going to go into our script now. So if we go to server script service and to the server script inside the room, and inside of the furniture module, we're going to add in a new module script, seeing as it is a type of furniture. And we're going to name this module script closet. And then we're going to create our closet module. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to need a closet.new function. So function closet.new, and this is going to be expecting the template part to position it, much like our furniture.new model, furniture.new function. So the first thing we're going to have to do is we're going to have to grab the model, because we're not going to use the generic furniture.new function any longer. So if we go down to the furnish room area of our furniture module, you'll see we're getting locations for hidden keys. Well, that's assuming that it actually has some locations, but it might not. So let's check first of all, if the part.name, if it's equal to closet, which is what we're calling it, then we want to create a new closet, but otherwise else we will continue as we were before. So otherwise we'll create a standard furniture.new. But if it's a closet, then we're going to create a closet.new. So let's make sure we're requiring the module, first of all, from the top here. So that will be local closet equals require script.closet. And so then down here, we can then say closet.new. And we would provide the template part. That's all we have to do in our furniture module. So let's continue fleshing out the new closet module. So the first thing we need to do is add the model into the world. So we'll grab the model first of all, local model equals workspace dot furniture dot, and we know it's closet, and we create a clone. A clone of it, and then we'll model pivot to, and we'll position it at the template's C-frame value, and then we just add it into the world. So model.parent equals the same parent as the template. And then we're going to create a value to keep track of whether or not we have a player. Now, we could use an attribute for this, but attributes don't actually support, if we look at the types, we have Boolean, numbers, UDIMs, colors, and all these things, but we don't actually have an object value. And I would actually like to store the actual object that is the player. So we're going to use an old-fashioned object type for this. So we'll create a variable local has player, which will be a instance.new of a object value. And then the has player dot name we will set to has player. It's not going to have a value initially, so we'll just parent it to the model. And then we'll go ahead and create some proximity prompts. So I want a proximity prompt on the outside in this outside part that we just created. So we can go and create that. It will be local outside prompt equals instance.new, and we create a proximity prompt. And then we'll just set some settings for it. So the action text, I'm going to have that blank again. You could set text if you wanted. You could have enter closet if you wished, but I quite like them just to be blank. And then we're going to want a max activation distance. And I set that equal to 5. And so then we just give it a parent. So the outside prompt dot parent will be equal to the model dot the outside part that we created. And so then when that is triggered, we want to connect that into a function, which will give us the player. And then we're going to want to check if we already have a player. So this has player value, we're going to set when someone enters it. So if there's already somebody inside of the closet, then we don't want anyone else to be able to get in. So we'll check if has player.value. If that is nil, then we'll allow someone to get in. So we'll create a new function closet.player enter, which will obviously have the player who wishes to enter and the model of the closet that they're trying to get into. So then we can call that function closet.player enter, and we provide the player and we provide the model. And while we're doing all this, we probably want to disable the prompt as well, so no one else can climb inside and interact at the same time. So outside prompt.enabled, and we'll set that to false. And once we've done all these things, we're going to want to go ahead and destroy that template that we were using to position it. So at the very end, we can just say template and destroy, get rid of that template. So now let's work on our player enter function. So the first thing we do when they enter is we need to get the player's character, because we don't know, maybe somehow they don't have a character yet, so we'll just check. So local character should be equal to the player dot character. And if for some reason, if there's not a character, then we're just going to return from this function and end. We don't want to continue. So this is known as a guard because it's just stopping it right there and it's not continuing with the function. But assuming we do have a character, then we'll do everything as normal. So the first thing we want to do is set this has player variable. So model dot has player dot value, and we're going to set that equal to the player. And then we're going to want to position the character, and we don't want them to run off. So we'll set the character dot humanoid dot walk speed. We'll set that equal to 0. And we're also going to set the jump power to 0 as well. So they can't jump or move anywhere else. And then once we've done that, we're going to teleport them so they're nicely lined up. So we're going to teleport them directly into, using pivot to, into the outside parts position. So model dot outside dot C-frame. And once we've done that, we're going to want to move some doors maybe, but we haven't got any doors just yet. But that, and then we probably, so let's imagine we're opening doors. We'll wait 1 second, and then we want to teleport them inside. So that'll be pivot to, and instead of the outside, it'll be the inside part. Okay, that's quite a bit of coding. Let's go and check this is actually working now. So we'll hit play and we will give it a quick test for ourselves. Enter into the first room, and we can see our closets lined up. We've got our proximity prompts. If I press E, I'm teleported in front and then inside of it. And if I hit my space bar to try and jump, and if I try and move around, I can't get out. I'm completely stuck inside of here. So we probably want a way to get out as well. Now we could use the same proximity prompt, but the problem with that is that we haven't localized these prompts. They're just on the server. So what we might do is we create a separate one inside the model that only the player inside will be able to see. So let's hit stop and we'll create a new area for a second prompt. So if we take the inside part And if we just duplicate that, and let's see, if we move it a little bit, move it up here and up a little. So it's still very much inside. We could maybe shift it a little bit more to the right. As long as it's behind, if I turn off the transparency, you can see it better. As long as it's behind this main barrier part, which it is, then nobody else will be able to see it unless you're inside of it. So we can leave it here. That's probably a good spot. And we'll name this from inside to inside prompt. Again, make sure it's anchored and all the collisions and stuff are turned off. And now we can go into our closet module script, and we're just going to create a copy of the outside prompt. So we can say local inside prompt equals outside prompt, and we'll just clone it. And the property we're going to want to change, let's narrow the max activation distance down to 2. And then the parent of it, we want that to be the model.inside prompt, that part we just created. And so now when this is triggered, inside prompt.triggered, we'll connect that into a different function. And this time we want to check the hasPlayer value. So we should have a value for that now. If hasPlayer.value, if that is equal to the player that just triggered it. So if that's the case, then we're going to set the inside prompt dot enabled to false. Then we're going to set the position of the player's character to back outside. So we're going to want a player leave function now. So let's put that right at the top here. Function closet.player leave. Again, this is going to be very similar. So we're going to want the player and we're going to want the model. We're just sort of doing things in reverse, really. So again, we will check if they have a character, and if not, we will exit the function. Then we're going to want to move the doors. And then once we've moved the doors, we're going to want to teleport the character outside. So again, we can copy this line, character pivot to model.outside.cframe. And once we've moved them outside, we're going to want to set the walk speed. So we can copy these lines, paste these in. And so this will be 16 walk speed and the jump power will be 50. And then once we've done that, we will want to move the doors again. This time we'll be closing the doors. So it'd be opening them and then we close them further on. And once we've done that, we're going to set the model.hasPlayer.value, and we want to set this back to nil because the character will have now left the model. So let's check. We'll go and call this down here, closet.player leave, send the player and the model values. And once we've done that, we're going to want to make sure inside prompt.enabled, we'll set this back to true for the next player, and the outside prompt as well. Make sure that is enabled too. Okay, let's go and test this then. We'll hit play. And we will get into our virtual closet. We've got to go down some stairs first by the looks of it. So here we go. We can press E to enter. And there we go. We're locked inside. I can't get out. And if I'm in first person, I should be able to see, there we go, the prompt has appeared. So if I'm another player who would be standing here, I wouldn't be able to see anything. But if I am the player inside, and if I hit E, I will exit. There we go. So we can enter and we can exit. So we probably want to be in first person really, because that's how our game is going to be played. So if we want to enable first person, that's super, super easy. We would just go to the starter player all the way down here. And where we have the camera mode, we're just going to set that to lock first person. And when we do that and we play and we join the game, we're then going to be inside of our first person, see? And if we try and zoom, it won't let me zoom out. And so now when I enter and exit, it feels a bit more smooth rather than having that weird third-person camera. So all we need to do now is we want to create some doors, because at the moment, well, this looks a bit rubbish, doesn't it? So we're going to create some doors just like we had for our other doors. This time it's just going to be doors on our closet. So let's hit stop and we can add in some doors. So let's set this barrier part to invisible, because it looks a bit daft. And we can go ahead and start adding in those doors now. So we can take one of these side parts and we'll just move it over like so. And if we move it forwards, we can make these doors 0.5 is probably fine. And then if we resize them like so, and then if we duplicate this, we can get 2 doors. And I don't want them to quite be completely filling it. So if it's like this, then they're going to completely fill the gap. I want a tiny little gap for the players to be able to look through. So let's just do 0.05 so we can create a 0.1 stud gap perfectly in the middle. So when the player's inside, they can look through this tiny crack and see out, see any monsters that may be passing by. So we've got both these doors now, and the only thing we need to do is create a hinge, if you remember, like we did for our other door. So now I have a hinge that's right next to the door. So we'll name this part right hinge. We'll set the transparency to 1, and we'll make sure that it is anchored. And then we're just going to duplicate this and move it over. And then this one we will name left hinge. And so these parts are going to be our doors. So we'll find the door. Here's our left door. While this is selected, hold down the control key and click left hinge. Got both selected, and then we'll just create a weld. There we go. And then this part we can name door if we want to, and make sure that it's unanchored. And when we do that, you notice how the weld turns bright green, which means it's now an active weld. And we'll do the same for our other door as well. So we click this part, click the right hinge and create that weld. And then we can name this part door again. There we go. And then we can unanchor it, and that one will turn green too. And if we want, we could even add some door handles onto the part. There we go. And obviously I'll just create a weld for each of these. There and there. So there we go. We've got a rather fetching piece of furniture, our closet. Now we just need to script those doors. It's going to be pretty similar to the way we created the door before. So we'll just grab tween service for ourselves. Local tween service equals game get service tween service. And then we're going to create a function called closet.moveHinge. And this function is going to take the hinge that we want to move and the direction that we want to go in. And so this is going to have the angle that we want to open it to. Open angle we'll set to 110. And then the C-frame that we want to move to, we'll name goal C-frame. So that'll be its current C-frame, hinge.C-frame. And we're going to multiply that by an angle. So C-frame.angles. Let's see, we're going to want to rotate that math.rad, the open angle, and then we'll multiply that by the direction. So it could be forwards or backwards. And then 0 on the Z-axis. And then we'll create our tween. So the door tween. Using tween service, we create the thing we want to tween, which is the hinge. And then the properties, we keep this really simple. We'll just have a half-second long tween. And then finally the goal. So that's in those curly brackets. And that's the C-frame. We want to set to the goal C-frame. And finally, we're going to tell it door tween to play. And so this move hinge function, we're going to have another function called closet.moveDoors, which is going to move each of the hinges. So this will be the model and the direction. So we can say closet.moveDoors move hinge. And so the first one will be model.left hinge. And then we'll want that to move, say, 1 multiplied by the direction. And then we can copy that line. Oh, I've actually misspelt that. Left. There we go. And then this time it would be the right hinge, except this time it's going to be the opposite. So it's going to be -1 times direction. And then once we've done, we can wait for that tween to finish. So wait half a second and then carry on as we were. So now let's call this move doors function. So when the player enters, the first thing we want to do, we've teleported them to the outside, and then we're going to want to move the doors. So move the doors, and then we'll send the model, and that will take 1 second. Sorry, not 1 second. You want that to be moving direction 1. And then once we've had them actually teleported inside of it, then we're going to want to move those doors back. So we can copy the line. We can copy that whole line, in fact, and we'll just change that to a -1. And then we're going to want to do the same thing for the players leaving, just the opposite way round. So we want to open the doors, and then we want to close them again. So now let's check how that's working if we've got all our directions the right way round. If we hit play and we load in, we find our closet, we press E. And oh no, the doors orientations are slightly off, we can see there. They're doing some crazy things. That is not what we want at all. So we obviously had our orientations a bit wrong there. So if we just check with the closet, we can see for my left hinge, my orientation is the front of it is pointing outwards, but the top of it is actually pointing to the left here. You see that little green arrow pointing leftwards? And so because it's that way round, we're going to have to rotate it the other way. You see, I've done this so the wood grain matches up. But if you're in a different orientation, your rotation is going to be a little bit different. So we're going to move this from the y-axis to the x-axis. And hopefully now if we hit play, we should get that on the correct axis. Let's see. And if we go up to it and we press E to enter, there we go. The doors are opened and closed. Open and close. So we can be outside, press E, teleport into place. We're locked in it. We can't jump. We can't move around. But if we tap the E, we can escape back out. If I enable the third person camera again, you might be able to see a little bit better what is happening. And we probably could do with some sounds as well. So let's go and add those in. For the sound, I can be a little bit lazy and I can just grab the one from the door. So if I go to the door and I get this open sound, I can copy that. And if I go over to my closet, I'm just going to place it inside the primary part. Place it in there. And so then inside of closet, when we move the doors, the first thing I'm going to do is going to say model.primary.open, and I'm just going to tell it to play. And then let's just enable the third person camera again, just so we can get a better view of what is actually happening. So we'll turn off the first person lock. And I'm going to test with a few more players as well. So we go to the test tab, make sure local server, and we're going to have 2 players to test with this time. So we start up a virtual server window. Okay, so we now have a test server with 2 players. We've got this player on the right and this player on the left. We can control both windows. So if we move into the level and we head over to one of our closets over here, you can see it has the E that's appeared, so we can enter it. And we can obviously go and watch with the other player if we so choose. So if he presses E to enter, he enters inside, right? He can't move, he's trapped in there. And that other player now, you can see the prompt has been disabled, so he can't enter either. And if the other guy, he can come out using that special one, he can come out, and then the other guy can come in and enter if the other guy is not standing in the way of the prompt. There we go. And he can enter in. One thing that would probably be nice to do is to set the camera of the player. So at the moment, if I enter the closet, I'm teleported inside, but I'm actually looking back at the back of the closet, which is a bit weird. It'd be nicer if we were automatically looking outwards. So if the camera could turn around, and also when we leave the closet, you'll notice, I don't know if you caught it on the other camera, we're facing the wrong way, which is a bit weird. So if we're inside and we come out quickly, watch the camera, we do this, we're facing the wrong way, which isn't really what we want. So let's just quickly correct that. So we're going to close down this test server. So we go into the closet script. And in order to get us to face the right way, all we need to do is on the player leave, when we teleport them, we'll set them to the C frame, and then we're going to rotate by C frame dot angles, and that will be 0, and then math dot rad 180 and 0. So that'll rotate them round. Let's just check that works. Go to a closet, enter it, and leave it. And we're now facing the right way when we come out. We just need to make sure we're facing the correct way when we enter now. And to do anything with the camera, we need to do that through a local script. So let's go ahead and create a new script down in starter player scripts. Add in a local script, and we will call this just closet local. And in order to communicate between a local script and a server script, we need a remote event. So in replicated storage, add in a new folder. We will call this events. And inside of here, we'll add in a remote event, and we will name this move cam. Okay, so then inside of our server script, inside that closet script, well, we're going to want to use that. So if we head over to get replicated storage, local replicated storage equals game get service replicated storage. And then we're going to need to get the events folder. So events equals replicated storage wait for child events. And then we'll get that specific event. So that will be local move cam event. And we set that equal to, so we go to the events folder, and then we will wait for a child of the move cam. Okay, so once we've got the variable for the move cam event, all we need to do is fire it off. So inside of the player enter function, here it is. As soon as we teleport them inside, we're going to say move cam event, fire client, and we'll fire it to that player. And then we're going to want to tell them where to look. So we're going to tell them to look at the model.inside.cframe. And we could also do this for the outside as well. So just after we move them outside, we could tell them to look at the outside.cframe. And so then inside of closet local, we can copy these lines over. So copy these 3 lines. So now we have the replicated storage, the events, and the specific move cam event that we want. And so we can react to it then. Move cam event dot on client event. So whenever it's fired from the server, we want to connect that to a new function, and we'll be expecting that C-frame value that we just fired off. And all we'll say is workspace dot current camera dot C-frame, and we set that to the C-frame that we've been given. Now this isn't going to do any smooth transitions. It's just going to set it for 1 frame, which is a quick way of just sort of resetting the camera back. If we wanted something a bit more fancy, then we'd have to say workspace.camera and set the camera type to be scriptable, right, like so. But we're not going to do all of this. We're just going to keep it on the default camera controls, but this will just allow us to do a little bit of positioning. So if we click play now, we should hopefully have that event working for us. So if I'm over here and I'm in first person, if I press E in this position, I'm going to be facing the camera, facing the closet, and then as soon as I'm inside, I'm facing outside again. So we're always facing the right direction. There we go. That's much more satisfying, isn't it? Admittedly, the door sound is a little bit loud. But there we go. I think we have some working closets for the player to hide in from the monster, which will be coming soon in our next episode. Ooh, spooky stuff. So, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next episode. Goodbye!